Hello, my name is Joanna and I am currently a case manager at Safenet Services. I began my journey here almost 2.5 years ago. I began as a family advocate working directly in shelter, welcoming families that are going to be staying with us for a time.
I became involved with Safenet Services back in 2007 after my mom was taken from us through domestic violence in 2006.
I've had a family history of domestic violence. Today, I serve on Safenet Services because I want to help those who are currently or previously experiencing domestic violence, stalking, or sexual assault.
The first time I walked through the doors of Safenet, I came seeking services. A very close friend of mine encouraged me to come and receive services. I never stayed in the shelter. I came as an outreach client, and so I was immediately connected with a counselor that helped me in my healing journey and provided hope.
I'm also here to tell you a story about Jane, who came to use our services and came out on the other side victorious. Jane is a woman in her early 60s, and she was told that when she left the hospital she couldn't go home. And she couldn't go home because her abuser hadn't been apprehended, and that she needed to come to a domestic violence shelter. Jane had a very specific idea of what a shelter looked like. She pictured filthy rooms, overcrowded rooms, mats on the floor. But when she arrived here at Safenet, she was pleasantly surprised. She felt like it was a mansion. And she was very excited to begin her journey here and to explore the different spaces. But first she began in the intake room, as everyone does when they're entering into shelter. And there she told her story. She shared with the advocates that her longtime boyfriend came home in a drug and alcohol-fueled rage and beat her. He beat her so severely that he broke all of the ribs on one side of her body, bruised her spine, and gave her 2 brain bleeds. He told her that he had been in the woods for the past several hours digging her grave. Luckily, he stopped before he killed her, called an ambulance, and she was rescued. When she came to shelter, Jane had only the gown that the hospital gave her and the wheelchair. She had nothing else. The advocates worked quickly and they gave her every amenity that she needed. They gave her toothpaste, a toothbrush, shampoo, conditioner, underwear, clothes to wear. She received everything that she needed, and she felt overwhelmed by the generosity. To this day, when she recalled the story, it brings tears to her eyes. During this time, Jane stayed for only a few days. Her abuser still hadn't been apprehended, and he was looking for her everywhere. She had a friend reach out to her and invited her to come stay with her. She lived far away, and Jane took the opportunity. So she left shelter. It took just a couple of months before her abuser found her. And during this time, in their interaction, it entered into the honeymoon phase of the cycle of violence. And during this phase, the abuser says and does all of the right things. He said to her, I've done a lot of healing. I'm going to church. I'm sober. You don't actually have to forgive me. He said enough of these things that she believed him and moved back home with him. And it wasn't long before the cycle of violence continued into the tension-building phase. The abuser in this phase begins to nitpick. They put down their partner. They threaten their partner. And a few short weeks later, it happened, an explosion of violence. This time, Jane knew what to do. She called Safenet. Jane was welcomed back into the shelter without a hint of judgment. She was welcomed back with grace.
1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men suffer from the consequences of domestic violence. And I did not want to be a statistic. I wanted to change the story for myself and my family through the healing journey. After my mom's death, we had talked to some of her friends that had actually tried to get her away from the situation.
and her reasoning was he was threatening mine and my sister's and my grandparents' life. So in her way, she was protecting us by staying in the terrible situation that she was staying in.
I became involved with Safenet Services during my time at Rogers State University. I've always been committed to improving the community, and Safenet Services is one opportunity where I felt like I could belong.
If this fundraiser can help others get out of the situation that my mom was unable to get out of, I feel like I'm doing something in my mom's honor.
Jane's biggest accomplishment is that she is now living an independent life, free from violence, free from abuse. Jane's story is at once very unique to her and all too common. So when you support Safenet, you support women like Jane.
I am blown away by the support that we receive at Safenet. It's because of individuals like you that support us on a daily basis that we are able to provide the services that we continue to provide and have since 1991. Thank you.